Welcome back to another episode of Stacking M's. I am Tara Paton, marketing consultant and business coach, and you know we focus on the marketing, money, and mindset of entrepreneurship. So today what I'm going to be talking to you about is why your content is not working. So many people come to me, my clients, my students in my program, and they are often burnt out, right? They're burnt out because they are creating an endless stream of content and they're not getting any results. Now, I understand content is definitely king, but you must have a strategy behind it. So I want you to think about it like this. Would you go on a ski trip without a snowsuit, without snow boots, without renting skis to enjoy the slopes? Probably not. Right? So you cannot create content without having a marketing strategy, a marketing plan, setting goals, and being very clear and intentional with what you want the content to actually produce for your business. So I'm going to jump into some of the things that you need to do in order to ensure that your content is actually going to get you results, AKA bring you some money to your business. So the first thing that anybody will tell you, my question for anyone that I work with or anyone who's struggling with content is, what is your goal? If you don't have a goal for your content, you're typically creating content that is just pretty and you're primarily focused on just the aesthetic, or you're just trying to keep up appearances because you see other brands that are posting content and you're trying to do something similar to them. So you want to set a clear and specific goal for each piece of content that you create. Now, what that looks like is you create a video that is going to bring brand awareness. The goal for that piece of content is to get eyeballs and get people engaging with your brand. Now, another example would be you would create a piece of content that is intentionally designed to get people to take an action, like click on a link, go to your website, view, comment, share, save, etc. But in order to do that, you first need to have a goal in mind for your content. The next thing that I want you to do is figure out and make sure that you're very, very clear on your brand messaging. Who are you speaking to? What's your brand identity, right? The visual elements do need to be strong. You also need to ensure that you're speaking to the right person and that content is actually resonating with them. So you're not going to put out a piece of content. Let's say you have a skincare brand and you put out a piece of content that has to do with hair, right? You're totally off the mark. So you want to make sure that you are speaking directly to your product that you are selling, your brand. It's very specific and clear, and it also resonates with your audience. And another way to think about this is, one of the things I always say to my clients and students in my program is, boring brands do not make sales, right? So when I talk about brand messaging, I'm talking about that personality. What is the personality of your brand? Does that come through the content, or is your content just kind of laying flat? Now, I had a guest here on the podcast, and I really, really loved that she was intentional about naming her brand, right? She called her brand Her. I asked her a question. She was like, well, I see her doing this. I want you to think about your brand as a person. It really personalizes it, not just for you and when you're planning, but also for your audience. And that is really important because you want to have people connect with your brand on a personal level. So the next thing I want you to steer very, very clear of when you're creating content is trying to solve more than one problem, or trying to talk about more than one thing or product at the same time. This is a big, big, big mistake that many people make, especially in the product-based space, right? So you may have 50 products, 30 products, even 10 products that you sell on a consistent basis. That does not mean that each piece of content is going to focus on every product that you sell, right? So you want to make sure that you are focusing on a singular message that is very clear and is focused on one product, one thing, right? Pick the one thing that you want to focus on and that you want to talk about. And that is going to help you immensely with creating content that is actually going to add value to your brand. Now, when you are creating your content and you are putting things out there that have a singular focus, you're probably burnt out because you're putting everything out there in one post, and then you wind up feeling like you don't have any more content to create, right? Have any of you ever felt like that? You're burnt out, you've created content for a week, and you're like, I have nothing else to talk about. That's because you're talking about everything in one piece of content. So in moving forward, as you are putting together your content and you're focused on one singular message, I want you to think about how many more opportunities you have to talk about other products, other things that you're doing to drive engagement, to build brand awareness, because now that you're focusing on one thing, you can create a lot more content, okay? So to recap, what you really want to do is, one, you want to focus on a goal. You want to set your goal for the piece of content to make sure that you're actually getting the thing that you want out of your customers. You also want to make sure that you are not solving a ton of problems, and you want to be very clear and specific on the messaging and who you're speaking to and how you're speaking to them. Now, this one goes without saying, but I do feel like I need to share this as well. When you're creating content, a lot of times when it's not producing fruit for you or getting sales or doing the things that you want it to do, it's because you are focused on you and the messaging is focused on you and not your customer. So the next time you create a piece of content, I want you to ask yourself, how does my customer feel about this? Is this something that they want? Is this something that is adding value to their life, right? And you want to be very intentional about adding value into your content, because that's what's going to get people excited. That's what's going to get people engaged, and especially if they feel like it's speaking directly to them and only to them. All right. So after you do all of these things, that is when you should start creating content. And creating content should not be just one piece of content here, another piece of content there, another piece of content here. You want to really lay out the picture and kind of paint a story with your content, because marketing is really all about storytelling. You have to be able to tell an effective story with your content. So sit down, plan out, get your calendar, plan out what is that goal, the overall goal. Let's say your goal is to make $1,000 in the month, right? You want to put together content that's going to lead people to make purchases of specific things that will get you to that goal of making $1,000 in a month. But that doesn't just happen with a single post. And that is a myth that people believe, especially when you're starting out or especially when you're building and growing your brand, that you can just post one piece of content and you're going to make $1,000. Now, if you have a ton of followers, if you have a really engaged audience, if you have been at it for some time and you know specifically what your customers want, that is absolutely possible. However, for those that are not at that stage yet, you really need to make sure that you're putting together that story that is going to connect the dots for your customers as they are engaging with your brand. And I also want you to remember that when you are posting content on social media, writing emails, sharing text messages with your community, not nine times out of 10, but from an email standpoint, only 20% of people see your email the first time it's sent. And then on social media, I don't even know what the stats are, but with all the algorithms and the shadow banning and all that nonsense, like, you never know who's seeing and engaging with your content. That's why it's really important to connect those dots with each piece of content to tell a story. So when they do see that one piece of content, they're engaged, they're excited. They want to click on that content or go back to your page or social media, wherever you're sharing it, and kind of put the story together. Then they will go and engage and see, oh, she's been talking about this the entire week. They've been talking about this serum for reducing hyperpigmentation for the last 3 days. Oh, they actually have a promotion that they're running on this bundle, right? But you don't achieve that unless you have the content that is connecting together and telling an actual cohesive story. Okay? So that is what I wanted to share with you today. Those are some of the main reasons why your content is not working, and also ways that you can actually improve it. Okay, so remember the steps that I went through. Remember, you really, really want to tell a story with your content that drives people to take action. So I will see y'all on the next episode of Stacking M's, and have a good day.
Your business decisions should be based on like deep empathy and understanding of your customer and what it is that